Yo, what's up guys? My name is Cairo SZA and I'm back again. And for this sample, I was going for that neo soul R&B type of vibes for SZA, and I started with drums and this is how they sound like. And so I didn't do drums, they were actually made by the Rocker Collective. I got it from a pack and I just added to this sample. And from those drums, it inspired a chord progression from me, which I used two electric pianos, one from Stage 73 and another one from Piano Tech, and both of them sound like this. And if I remember correctly, it's actually two chords in this chord progression, but for the second half of the chord progression I just inverted those same notes that I already had to make them sound interesting. I then added a bass from Modo Bass, and this is how it sounds like. And so for the bass, it follows both the rhythm of the drums as well as the tones from the melody. I then added flutes to add to the top layer, and with the flutes I decided to add the same thing, but I left it dry. I then also processed it heavily to also get a wet signal from that same flute to make an interesting type of sound. But I didn't really get that, but it was still usable, and this is how the flute sounds like. And I also added guitars. Well, I didn't play a guitar because I don't own one, but I used them from the VSTs that I have. And I used two guitars. One is called JC Strat from Roland. I also used a SZA guitar to add to the texture as well, and I played a melody with it and it sounds like this. And as you can hear, it's heavily processed. Reason being is when it sounds dry, it sounded like a plastic guitar. In other words, it sounded like a guitar that comes from a VST. So with delays, it starts to sound real, and I always like my samples to sound sort of like I use real instruments. And I then added an organ from D50, but from the VST Roland JV, and this is how the organ sounds like. So it's adding to that main melody that I have been playing all along. I then also added a synth type of sound, which is called True Analog, and it's also from Roland JV, and it sounds like this. I then added vocals from the same plugin, Roland JV. I actually used this plugin a lot for this sample. I then added the vocal ooze. I also added another set of vocals from Spell Singer, decent sampler. and this is how both the vocals combined sound like. And if you're listening to this video with headphones on, you should probably hear that the stereo image is going from left and right, but I'll explain that later on when I break down the effects. And lastly, I added a first violin tremolo as well as a solo cello from Sonatina Orchestra to give it that extra character, and it sounds like this. So let me break down the effects for you. So for the rig and bass, I added a compressor which is called Pro C2 from FabFilter. I added it to put the bass in its own context in terms of the frequency, so that it doesn't jump around a lot. And I also think I added a little bit of punch to the guitar. And then for the vocals, the ooze, I added a penman so that the stereo image can go from left and right. I also added a chorus plugin to make them even wider. I then made a low cut around 90 Hz to also have space for the other instruments in the sample. And then for the guitars, I added a GTR solo tool rack stereo from Waves so that I can add a certain texture to the guitars and to make them sound real instead of making them sound like they came from a DST. I also added a Valhalla plate to put them inside a certain space. I also added I also took care of the low end a little bit to make space. And then for the flutes, I added a Valhalla vintage verb as well as a tremolator. For the Valhalla vintage verb, I wanted to add space, and with the tremolator, I wanted it to sound like it's cutting and playing. I then also added a chorus to make it a little bit wider. And that's for the flute that is wet, and for the dry one, I obviously didn't do anything, and it's the exact same pattern. And for the master channel, I added a compressor to glue all the instruments together. I then added the Abbey Road vinyls, where I was just adding a little bit of distortion to the sample so that it doesn't sound too clean. I also added a limiter so that I can prevent it from peaking over 0 decibels. And with that said, let me play you the final sample. And the final sample sounds like this. And so that's the final sample. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and share this video if you found it useful. And with that said, my sample pack Food for the Soul Volume 2 is coming very soon. Just keep your eyes glued to the screen and you'll probably know when it's going to drop. So, by the way, Food for the Soul Volume 1 is out. It has already been out long ago. So if you haven't purchased it yet, please go and purchase Flute for the Soul Volume 1. And also, if you don't want to purchase it, it's fine. You just can listen to it here on YouTube. And the links will be in the description of this video, as well as for my brand new single War Is Coming. And again, with that said, thank you for your support, for watching my videos. I'll see you again 2 weeks from now.